What's going on, beautiful people? It's the KJ here, and today I just want to come do this video and pay respects to DJ Kay Slay, man. DJ Kay Slay, the drama king. He's a pioneer in hip hop, especially when it comes to New York hip hop. He started out in the 80s as a prominent graffiti artist. He was in the 1983 documentary called Style Wars, which is definitely a very popular hip hop film. Of course, that predates what a lot of people understand as hip hop films, and of course a lot of people in this generation have probably never seen it. But for anyone that's involved in the DJ culture or in the mixtape culture or just hip hop period, I think it would be something to be cool to go back and watch. I may go back and watch it myself because I did not see it in my youth, but I always knew about it, just like I knew about Beat Street and I knew about Wild Style and all that type of stuff. I didn't necessarily watch those films, but I was also aware of them enough to understand that they laid the foundation for the hip hop that I loved and respected. And he was only 17 in that film, you know what I mean? So he was obviously doing something right at that time with graffiti to be documented and released in a film, you know what I mean? Now, of course, he did go to jail in the late 80s, but in the 90s going into the early 2000s, he began his journey as a DJ, both on the radio and putting out iconic mixtapes. Kay Slay The Streetsweeper, the Drama King. Like, for me, growing up, I was in Atlanta, but I always had East Coast roots because I was born in Connecticut. My brother was in Connecticut. He always would bring down everything that he had from like the whole New York culture. So it was kind of passed down to me by default, which is kind of like why I have a little bit of an East Coast accent when I speak now. And DJ Kay Slay was one of those people that I was introduced to at a young age. So I was probably 12, 13 bumping DJ Kay Slay tapes, man. And during that time period, it was like all the artists in the game were giving him exclusive freestyles to put on his mixtapes. They were going up to his radio show to do exclusive freestyles on the air, you know what I mean? And those were always the most respected DJs, the ones that would give opportunities to the new artists to show their talent, to have their first experience on the radio. And a freestyle in the middle of New York City during the time of night where people wanted to hear that new. So a lot of artists either got broke or had their first experience, and you know, over time they began to elevate. But those Kay Slay tapes, I mean, they had Jay-Z on them, they had Nas, they had Raekwon the Chef, they had Cool G Rap, Mobb Deep, Sauce Money, early 50 Cent, artists like Graf, Poster Boy, man, the list goes on. It was so much going on at that time, man. Kay Slay actually introduced the world to Papoose with the Alphabetical Slaughter song, which people still listen to this day. A lot of people have tried to do their own interpretation of it. Papoose even did a part 2 to it, going from Z to A, whereas in the original he went from A to Z. So DJ Kay Slay played a big part in some really big moments in hip hop, you know what I'm saying? And crazy thing is, I actually ended up becoming like one of Papoose's biggest fans during that time because I was bumping all his joints. Like, I was like, yo, this Papoose dude is crazy. And Kay Slay was always on all the tracks screaming, you know what I'm saying? Any mixtape that Papoose put out, because he was one of the artists that was early on in dropping artist mixtapes, you know what I mean? Of course, 50 Cent had did it, Lloyd Banks and them were doing it, but Papoose was also very, very active on the mixtape scene. I think he dropped like like 30 solo mixtapes back in the day, you know what I'm saying, over the span of a couple years. So he was extremely active. He was dropping a tape a month at one point. So I was very, very involved in like listening and learning, and you know, they actually helped me push my craft to want to become an artist as well, which is why I'm here in front of y'all now. I also got to give a lot of respect to Kay Slay's debut album called The Streetsweeper Volume 1, which to me is still holds some of the hardest street records that I heard in my time growing up listening to hip hop, and like I said, pursuing my own craft. This project was something that I listened to a lot, from 50 Shot Ya freestyle to 7 Deadly Venoms. It had all the hardest female rappers at the time all on one track. They had Angie Martinez, Emil, it wasn't Emil, it was like Angie Martinez, Vita from Murder Inc. It had I think Lady Luck was on there. Man, I can't remember all of the artists that was on that song, but that joint was hard, and it had one of the toughest beats. I still to this day would love to find that beat so I could to do a freestyle on it. It was a joint from Mobb Deep on there called "Get Shot the Fuck Up," which is crazy to think about today because people don't name songs those type of titles these days. But that song was so hard. New Jack City, it had Graph, Cassidy, Poster Boy, Shells, J Hood. Like, it's crazy to think some of the names that were on these projects, man, because these were guys that were supposed to have been the next generation of hip hop coming after the Nas's and Jay-Z's. A lot of them didn't translate all the way into becoming stars in their own right, but they are definitely all talented, all people that played an influential role in my craft as an MC. So I got to give respect to all those people as well. And I gotta give Kay Slay his props for being a pillar in hip hop and being somebody that introduced those types of artists to people like me, because I wasn't the only one listening to them. Those actual mixtapes were like doing really good numbers on the East Coast, like selling on the streets. So it was just a different time in hip hop, man. I don't think we'll ever see another time like the early to mid 2000s with mixtapes and DJs like being the primary goal for artists to like get their music broken. People doing freestyles, the art of freestyle is no longer as valuable as it was in previous generations. So Kay Slay is definitely he just exemplifies all of those things, you know what I'm saying? So I definitely want to give a shout out to Kay Slay, say rest in peace. I hate the fact that C19 was his cause of death. He had been struggling with it for over 4 months. He had been hospitalized. As somebody that had C19 myself and had a rough time with it for about a month myself, I definitely empathize with him and his family and all of his loved ones. And I send my condolences out to all of them as well, man. But I just wanted to do this video to pay my respects to DJ Kay Slay, talk about the impact that his records and his tapes had on me, both as a young man and as just an artist in general, being inspired. And yeah, man, if y'all were in tune with DJ Kay Slay, I mean, he still was dropping records. He's still been dropping albums. So I think he just did a big Rollin' 100 Deep, where it was like a track with 100 artists on it, and it was like no holds barred. Some artists from the old generation, new generation, everybody in between. So he still was having a big impact on the culture up until his last days. So drop a comment down below. Let me know how y'all feel about this situation. You know what I mean? If DJ Kay Slay had any impact on you growing up. And yeah, man, share this video with other people that can understand and relate to what I'm talking about. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see y'all on the next one, man. Peace.